Hi folks, welcome to this video on coaching or teaching styles. So this is potentially one of the Section B essay topics on AS. What you've got here is a picture of something called Mostyn's teaching spectrum, okay, or coaching spectrum. What we can basically see is we've got three, I don't want to say basic, they're not basic, but three methods of coaching or delivering a session. They're called the command style, they're called the problem solving or guided discovery style, and they're called the reciprocal style. What I've tried to do is colour code it a little bit. When we're talking about teaching style A, that is the command style. So all blue is command style. When we're talking about teaching style J, problem solving or guided discovery, that is the yellow teaching style. And obviously what happens if you mix blue and green, blue and yellow, you get green. And that's, we're talking about these middle bits here. So what you can see is these wedges are representing teacher decision, pupil decision. So command style is where the teacher makes all the decisions. Problem solving is where the pupils make all the decisions. Reciprocal is where we've got a bit of both. So questions that you can get on this would be, what would influence your decision to use one of, or two of, or all three of these styles? Now what I can tell you is, it's come up twice before, and both times it's been on command style, and they've only ever asked one. So you remember, you've got to try and make 7 points, really, on each half of the essay. You've got to try and say 7 things about why you would or why you might not or why you should maybe use or why you shouldn't maybe use each of these styles. When would they be best to use? When would they be not great to use? So let's have a look at them each in turn, sorry. So straight away, first of all, let's have a look at the command style of teaching or coaching. Right, this style is best to use with cognitive learners, beginners. Why? Because if you're a beginner, they can't make many decisions. They're going to struggle. If they've never done the sport before, how can they make any decisions on coaching or how to do this most effectively? So the teacher's got to make all the decisions if you're going to use command, when you're making command style, when you're working with cognitive learners. It's also a good style to use if our learners are lacking motivation. So they're not really up for it, they don't really seem that bothered. You shout and bawl at them, you get them to do whatever you've planned to do in this session. So if they're lacking a bit of motivation, it's also a very good strategy to use. It's also quite a good strategy to use if the group are misbehaving a little bit. Okay? They're mucking around, they're not doing as you asked. You need to take control of that as the coach or the teacher to make sure that they stay focused and they stay on track. It's also a very good strategy to use if you've got a large group. Lots of people. Sometimes it's nice as a coach to ask everyone's opinion on what do you think we should do and what's the best strategy to employ here. If you've got a large group, you can't do that. You can't get around everyone. And if you only ask some, you annoy the others that you haven't asked. So it's best to just lead, use your strategies, use your systems. You as the coach, you make all the decisions if you've got a large group. It's also a really useful strategy, command style, to use when you're short on time. So let's say you've got a 45-minute session and you've got quite a bit to do. You're going to have to take charge of that session. You haven't got time to discuss things and what do you think the best way to do this is, etc., etc. You've got to crack on with it. So if you push for time, command style is probably the best technique to use. It's also a good technique to use if you've got a complex skill that you want to coach. So if there's a high level of difficulty in what you're trying to teach, again, you the teacher, you the coach, you're going to have to take charge of the situation. Finally then, it's also a very good method to use if there's a high level of danger. So not only if the skill is complex, but if there's a high level of risk, high level of danger, it could be something like rock climbing, abseiling. Let's say you're coaching some swimmers for the first time, you're teaching very young children how to swim. You're going to have to take charge of that situation. The risk is high, the danger is high, you want to be in control. Now, as I've said, there are all the advantages. When would you use that style of coaching? There are also some disadvantages as well. 3 that I've just put at the bottom there. In no particular order. When you teach command style, there's no interaction. There's no decision making and there's no creativity from the group. You're the one making all the decisions. You're the one coming up with the ideas. But the point is, sometimes you want your players to be able to do that on the pitch, on the court, on the track. They can't do that if you're making all their decisions for them. So that's where it's also a disadvantage. We have had the question where it's just been disadvantages of command style of teaching. Now, again, you'd have to make 7 points on that. Well, there'd be 3. No interaction, no decision making, no creativity. What you then have to do is look at this and go, right, what's the opposite? If it's good for cognitive learners, If I've got a group of high level learners, it's not going to be beneficial, and therefore that's a disadvantage when to use command style. When I've got autonomous learners, it would be a disadvantage. If I've got learners with high motivation, it's going to be a disadvantage to use command style because I might end up beating that out of them. Okay? Another one, if I've got lots of time available or more time than I need, it's going to be a disadvantage to use command style because it's not going to be of benefit to them. And also, if it's quite a simple skill, it's going to be a disadvantage to use command style. So what you've got to be thinking about are all the different connotations, the ability level of the performer, the complexity of the skill, their motivation, maybe even their age, the group size, the time available. Is there any decision making or interaction to be had? That's what you've got to think about if you get a question on advantages or disadvantages on the use of command style of coaching. So what about problem solving or guided discovery? Now, as you'd expect, that's a mirror image, the exact opposite. That isn't a mirror image at all, is it? It's the exact opposite, of the command style of coaching. When are you gonna give all the decision making to the pupils or to the learners? And when are you as a coach going to take a backward step? A prime example here is, let's say you want to coach a layup shot in basketball or just basically shooting in basketball. You would turn up with a bag of balls, the bibs, the cones, and then literally hand all the equipment over to the group and say, right, we're going to look at shooting today, off we go. You've given them the idea or the drill or the skill that you want them to focus on, but they've got to come up with all the ideas. So when would you do that? You do it with autonomous learners, high-level learners. You'll do it when they're highly motivated. You'll do them when you can trust them, when they've got good behaviour. You'll generally do it with smaller groups because there's going to be less distraction going on with a smaller group. You're going to do it when you've got more time because even though they are high ability, even though they know what they're doing, there's going to be a little bit of debate, a little bit of discussion about what's the best way of doing it and this, that and everything else. So it's going to take a little bit more time to come to joint decisions. You're probably going to do it on simple skills though, because it's your job to coach the more complex skills. And you're also going to do it when there's low danger involved in the tasks. So as we can see, it's an exact opposite of what we've got there. But what else is it really good for? That one there, identifying your leaders. You've come in and, as I've said, you've given them the topic that you want them to look at, and they've got to make the decisions now. Who is it who's mucking around, wasting a bit of time? And who is it who's stepping to the front going, hey, pack it in, coach has asked us to do this, let's get on with it. They're your leaders, they're your potential captains. So that's another good reason to maybe use the problem solving or guided discovery method of coaching. What you've got here as well, as I said, these are all disadvantages of the command style of coaching. These are all advantages of this one. If the group are making all the decisions, they're interacting, the decision making, they're being creative. Okay? So again, these are playing off each other. You just got to have an idea of what this topic is in your head and then just go for it, really attack it. When would you use it as a coach? Obviously, there are going to be disadvantages of this method. Okay? But use your common sense now. The disadvantages are these. I would not use problem solving or guided discovery with cognitive learners. I wouldn't use it if they lacked motivation. I wouldn't use it if they had group misbehaviour problems. Larger groups, short on time, complex skills, high danger. That's an advantage. That's when you would use that one. But if you had those characteristics, you certainly wouldn't use that one. Okay? So it's just using your common sense. Look at the things that you've got to comment on no matter what style it is. What ability are the learners? What is their motivation like? What is their behaviour like? What is the group size like? What about the time you've got available? What about the complexity of the skill? What about the danger levels? Okay? Things like that. Then there's a few individual ones. They're definite disadvantages of command style, and these are definite advantages of problem solving or guided discovery. Okay? There's one last one we've got to look at, and it's reciprocal, and this one's quite a unique one. Well, I'll just get rid of those just to free up a bit more space, but I'll leave them on. Reciprocal, as you can probably see, is this area here. So let's put it in green. We're talking about these areas here, where as you can see, there is a 50-50 split in terms of input from the teacher and input from the pupils. Okay? So when would you run a session where you are having equal input from the student and from the teacher or the coach? Well, it's a unique situation, not an uncommon one, but a unique situation. The classic time you'll use it is when you've got a mixed ability group. Okay? Now here's a scenario. You've got 20 members of your group and of your team. let's say 4 of them are high-level performers, decent performers. You've known them a while, you've coached them a while, and you've got 16 new ones who are a bit weak. So we could say you've got 4 autonomous, 16 cognitive. What you could do in that situation is take 1 good performer and give them 4 cognitive learners, right? So what you're going to get to do is you're going to get the autonomous learner there's the 1, and you've got the 4 cognitives there. You're going to get the autonomous to coach the cognitives, okay? You're going to set the idea, you're going to say what's going on, you're going to split the group up, you're going to give the drills, but then within the drills, some of your pupils, these 4 autonomous working with the 16 cognitive, they're going to make the decisions. That's going to free you up as the coach to go around and work with smaller groups, okay? So what are the pros and cons of this style of coaching? Right, there's a lot to take on board, so you're going to have to look at these points carefully, okay? If you are splitting the group up and giving 1 autonomous learner, a few cognitive learners, that is going to promote high levels of interaction. Those 4 are going to be talking to that 1 a lot, and vice versa. Okay, so you're going to have a lot of interaction in the group, lots of communication, lots of decision making. It's fantastic. Because you're challenging that autonomous learner as a coach, and the 4 weaker ones are getting more contact time, it's catering for all ability levels. Okay? And like I said there, the autonomous are getting challenged as coaches, the cognitive are getting more contact time with a coach. When we had 1 teacher and 20 learners, your contact time was 1 to 20. Now you've got 4 good ones and you've given them 4 weaker ones each. You've now got contact time of 1 to 4, which is much better. Okay? The lead coach, the lead teacher, you are now free to move around the group and highlight faults and ask questions and check learning and offer advice and things like that. However, what you've got to be aware of, it only works with simple skills. You're putting a lot of trust and faith in that autonomous learner. So just give them a simple skill to coach to the 4 weaker ones, okay? You're naturally going to waste a bit of time because they're going to and ah over the right process to use, okay? So you need a bit more time. It's got to be low danger. Again, you're putting a lot of trust in this 1 person or these 4 people to coach the group and work with the group in smaller groups. But it is very, very good for when you have got a large group so that you can split them down a little bit. Okay, so there's some of the reasons why reciprocal coaching style is reciprocal teaching or coaching style is a really, really good idea. So what are the potential downsides to it then? Well, there are obvious downsides or risks, should we say, to using this technique. You're putting a lot of trust and faith in these higher ability ones to coach the less able ones. You're still there, remember, but you're floating around and you can only work with 1 of these small groups at a time. Whilst you're working with these 5, there are another 3 or 4 groups all working together. What if this 1 autonomous learner is coaching the incorrect technique? That means 4 of them are now going to pick up on this incorrect technique and start doing it themselves. Okay, so there's a risk, there's a potential downside to it. Okay, also, like I said, you're not going to do this if you're short for time, because you're going to end up, you as the lead coach, you're going to end up mingling in and around these groups, these smaller groups a lot. It's going to be, time consuming. You need to make sure everyone's okay. You're not going to do it on high danger tasks. You're not going to leave it to people within your group to coach less able ones, high danger skills. Equally, you're not going to do it when the tasks are complex or the skills are difficult. Equally, if this autonomous learner lacks confidence, they haven't got the confidence to coach others, it isn't going to work. It's not going to be beneficial at all. Also, it's not going to work if they're all similar ability. Why have 1 lead teaching 4 others when they're all about the same ability level? It only works if you've got a mixed ability group, okay? It's a high pressure situation being that 1, okay, leading those 4. So it can put pressure on these young coaches' shoulders. But, it's pressure that they need, but it's a potential downside that you need to be aware of, okay? Hope you found this video useful, folks. Like I said, what you could get is 1 or 2, unlikely 3 of these on an essay question. It's only ever been up, or they've only ever picked 1 at a time in the previous times they've asked it. Think about it. Talk about all aspects of it. You've got to think about, right, which style would I use depending on the ability of the group, at the time I've got available, the complexity of the skill, the danger levels, the group size, their motivation levels. Does it promote interaction or does it deny it? Does it promote creativity or does it deny it? Does it put too much pressure on these coaches' shoulders, these young children who have asked to do a job? You've got to think about all these different aspects of it when answering this question. And if unsure, put everything you know about it down on that command style. On that coaching style, be it command style, problem solving, reciprocal, whatever. What do you know? When would you use it? When would you not use it?